version of what you did, really, a little Instagram live recently, and Jarrell Miller popped on, had a couple of things to say about you and AJ, but he did an interview, I think, with Michelle Phelps. I haven't seen it, but I've seen the quotes from him, where he said that, he put AJ in a casket. Quote from the interview. What did you see that? What did you make of that?
I think it's disgusting. I think, I don't know why people give him the airtime to talk like that without actually questioning it. Let's just break one thing down. And you know what? I ain't going backwards and forwards with Jarrell Miller. He don't stop talking about me. One thing I'll tell you is, you fronted this guy up. You told the world what you were going to do to him. And do you know what you needed to try and beat Anthony Joshua? Do you know what you needed to do to believe you could beat Anthony Joshua? Stick needles in yourself and take banned substances to try and do this to Anthony Joshua. That's how confident you were. You cheated. You cheated, and there's nothing worse than a cheat in sport. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and once again now, I'm going to put him in a casket. You ain't ever going to get the chance, mate. You know why? Because you had the chance, you couldn't help yourself. You couldn't do it genuinely. You looked this man in the eye, you told him you were going to do all these things, and you went away and you put stuff inside you to try and give you an edge. You cheated. That is it.
You've told...
Wow. Those were the words of Eddie Hearn. Now, of course, we know, because I've counterpunched it, Jarrell Miller saying that he would put Anthony Joshua in a casket and calling, Eddie Hearn a pussy and two-faced and a fraud and, a lot of two-faced. A lot of these particular things were used, these words were used to describe Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn responds. And, I think at this point, the way he responded, it lets you know that I think he's getting less tolerable towards Jarrell Miller. Excuse me. And let me break it down. He says, I'm not going back and forth with him. He can't stop talking about me, which is right. He can't. Will it be smart to stop? I don't know. I think Jarrell Miller's trying to stay relevant, and I think Jarrell Miller is doing what Jarrell Miller's always done. Jarrell Miller is the number 2 pound for pound best shit-talking heavyweight, period, that we have today. Okay, so I have to, in this era, let's put it this way, that's fighting right now. Tyson Fury's number 1. Jarrell Miller's number 2. So Jarrell Miller's is trying to keep his status quo, people. He has to keep talking about Eddie Hearn because he knows that was the last time that people seen him almost shine. And you can't disagree with what Eddie's saying. He talked this good game. He talked. He did what he did best, but then when it was time to deliver, when it was time to show what he was going to do to Anthony Joshua, he did cheat. He can say it was from a tennis elbow. He can say this, he can say that, but those are a lot of drugs, man. It would be different if like again with Canelo with the Glenbuterol, at least he had a scapegoat. At least he could say, well, you know what? I'm from Mexico. The way they farm their cows here, I love eating my meat from my country. I'm not ashamed of my country, so I'm going to eat that damn meat. I'm going to eat an enchilada or a tostada or whatever, carne asada, whatever. If that's cow, I'm going to eat that Mexican cow because I'm a Mexican, right? Not everybody bought that. Everybody had mixed feelings about that. But at the end of the day, you couldn't dispute that Mexican farmers use clenbuterol in their meat. Okay? You can't dispute that. A whole soccer team tested positive for this shite. Right? So that's a legitimate excuse or a good one. But Jarrell's was piss poor. I had a shot and I couldn't use mine. I had to take the shot and it had all that shit in. You mean to tell me a shot that uses to heal you? Not saying they don't use steroids, because they use steroids to make you recover faster. I get that. But 3 of these, and then the problem with it is he got tested for 1 and popped for 1 and then took another test and got popped for 2 more. As I can remember, as I can recall, that's how the 3 were full, like were tallied up. This was a tally. You know, it wasn't like he got popped with 1, 2, 3. No, it was popped with 1, and that was that GWH 15, 16 or whatever. Then I think the second test had the other 2 in it, the HGH and the EPO or some shit like that, the ABC and the 1, 2, 3 and a lot of other stuff. Okay, so that was a lot of stuff in there. But it showed me, you can look at it 2 ways though, okay? 3. 1, Jarrell Miller's right. He had the stuff in his elbow. And in that case, that's just full carelessness. Okay, because there's no way you wouldn't know, or someone that is giving you, or a doctor that knows what you do for a living could be giving you something that you could fail a drug test. Or and here's the problem. If you can prove that needle that you use for your tennis shot, right, had all that shit in there, you can then say, well, look, this is what the doctor, you would be like that Luis Ortiz, Deontay Wilder 1 situation, right? Where you could prove that drug had, that particular treatment had those drugs in it. Now you could say that, you know, but he didn't push for that, did he? I made a bad call. No, here he is. I made a bad call. I'm dying inside. I'm the bigger man. You know, I'm going to make it through this. I appreciate everybody that supported me. That, right? That was his response. Not, hey, I took a shot, didn't know it was in there. Yo, don't believe it. But at first he was like that. But don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe this. Don't believe that. You know, everything you hear, it ain't what it is. And all that. But then the second was like that big, long apology I just showed you. Okay. So, doubt that one. 2, his hatred for Joshua was so vast that I'm going to take these drugs. I'm going to get jacked up on these drugs and destroy Anthony Joshua because I hate him so much. I don't know, you can call it, you can call it envy, hatred, whatever. Intense dislike, right? You can call it that, you know, and maybe he took it, and again, that goes to carelessness because of 3. Well, if you knew, before I get to 3, you knew already that you know you're getting tested, right? Okay, so that hatred led you to be, again, careless. Or 3, speaking of knowing that you're going to get tested, was Jarrell Miller really trying to get himself out of that fight? Maybe his mouth, being number 2 pound for pound shit talking best heavyweight champion now, or heavyweight now, maybe got him in trouble. Maybe his mouth wrote a check that his ass couldn't cash. Maybe that was the case. And maybe he was like, you know what? I'm going to take this shit, get out of this fight, because I don't know if I can win, and I'd rather go out like this than go out like that. You know what I mean? So it's either 3 of those. But talking about Eddie Hearn, the way that he's doing, I think he's mad too. You know, another alternative is you brown nose a person the way Jarrell Miller did to Eddie Hearn after the fact. I want to come home. Put his head on his fucking shoulder and all that shit. You remember that, right? Jarrell Miller was like, I want to come home. I'm like, dude, you didn't even know where the fuck home was. You forgot. You know what I mean? You were welcome to that house, but they kicked you out. You didn't even move your shit in. Andy Ruiz moved his shit in, stayed a while, and then left after 6 months. Jarrell Miller, shit, they were showing him where his living quarters were and then found out he didn't qualify and kicked them out. So he didn't even live in that home that he was talking about that he wanted to come home to. Okay? So it's crazy. I don't really get it, you know. But it's one of those. It's one of those things. But then he brown nosed and did all that I want to come home shit. And then Eddie just told him how he felt. Like, that's disgusting, mate. You know, I can't help you. So then I guess he did something expecting a certain reaction from Eddie Hearn, and he didn't get it. So that's the other thing that you can think of, that you can chop up in this situation with Jarrell Miller and Eddie Hearn. He thought Eddie Hearn was just going to bring him back in after 6 months of this shit. Matter of fact, that's just been a year ago now. People don't forget about that. It's going to take a long time for Jarrell Miller. He is the number 3 on the list, on the redemption list, because he has to prove to himself and to everybody else that he's just as good of a fighter fighting naturally, or like Eddie Hearn says, genuinely, right? Genuinely, right? Than he would as he was juicing, because we can't prove that he was juicing or not. See, because everybody's going to suspect him to just be a cheat the whole time, and he didn't get caught. So he has a lot to prove. And you have to do that, make some impressive wins before saying, I want to come home. So yeah, you can expect Eddie Hearn to do that with his top earning fighter. You tried to hurt this dude by cheating. Do you know what that means to somebody? Ask Miguel Cotto. Okay? Ask Billy Collin. Okay? Ask a lot of people that were affected from people that were cheating firsthand. That shit will ruin your life. You know, think about how Cotto was affected when he got hit with loaded fucking gloves by Antonio Margarito, and then the son of a bitch gets caught in the very next fight with Sugar Shane, and he gets the shit beat out of him, ironically. His punches weren't the same, ironically. See, you have to redeem yourself after getting caught like that. And it's not your job to criticize how a person criticizes you. Just understand you were wrong. So, no, I can't argue with Eddie Hearn at all. He gave him the silver platter and he shed on it. That's that. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Eddie Hearn's comments towards Jarrell Miller. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.